Okay, today I'm going to show you how to stamp designs onto metal for etching using a nail art kit. This kit right here is by Kiss, and it comes with just about everything you need to get started. I believe I purchased this at CVS Pharmacy, and I think it's normally $10.99, and I had a 30% off coupon, so very affordable and easy to use. In the kit, you get everything you need. It comes with a design plate, 2 fingernail polishes. It comes with a white and a black. Today I'm going to be using the black. The stamper, and your scraping card. This particular plate had some designs on it that I'm going to use, but for the most part it wasn't what I was looking for. So I picked up another plate at off the clearance rack at Walmart. These are pretty easy to come by, fairly inexpensive, especially on like Amazon. And there's an infinite number of designs out there, so there's just almost guaranteed to have something you like. So today I'm going to be stamping on brass. I already have my pieces cut out, as you can see. They are clean and they are ready to go. Now I have drawn on them very lightly with pencil, just guidelines to kind of help me place my stamps. I'm also going to be using a piece of paper to help cover areas I don't want to stamp on, and I also am going to keep handy, in case I need them, I may not, but some nail polish remover pads to clean the plate if it gets too dirty, because this plate will build up and sometimes you need to clean it to get a crisper stamp. So that's all I need to get started. Let's start. So I've kind of, on this piece of paper, I've kind of drawn out, I've kind of already picked my stamps and drawn out what I want, where I want them. So I'm going to go ahead with that. And the first one I'm going to use is on this plate right here. I'm going to be using this one right here, which is kind of hard to see, but it's like a honeycomb pattern. So I'm going to be picking that one. Again, you're going to be using fingernail polish. I think just about any polish will work. This happened to be the one that came with the kit, so I'm going to use it, but I know we've used other polishes in class with good results. Now I'm going to roll this between my hands instead of shake it. I find that if I shake it, I get air bubbles, but I don't tend to get as many if I roll it. So I'm just going to do that to try to mix it up some, and it should be good to go. So the first thing you do after you pick your design is you just figure out where you want to stamp. Now I'm not going to use this entire area, I just want part of it. So I'm just going to cover that part of the template, and then you just paint right over top of it. Next, you take your scraper card and you scrape the excess fingernail polish off so that the design is left behind. And then last, you take your jelly stamper and you pick up the design. I don't know if you can see that right there. It is now on the silicone. So since I already know where I want to put this, and it's the first piece, I don't really have to cover anything yet because I haven't really messed anything up. So I'm going to just place it where I want it. You stamp down on the metal, push pretty firmly, and I don't know if you can see that, but your design is left behind and it's now gone off of the stamper. It's that easy. Now, unfortunately, I guess because fingernail polish dries pretty quickly, you cannot stamp this area twice. It will not pick anything up. So you need, each time you go to stamp, you do need to reapply fingernail polish. And each time you'll need to scrape. Just pick it up again, place it where I want it again. And because this is clear, it is easy to see through the design to line it up. You can buy other ones that aren't clear, but I highly recommend getting a clear one. I also recommend having some extras on hand because they do get dirty, and if you're doing a lot of this, it's kind of a pain in the butt to clean in between steps. So I recommend having at least a second one. Okay, now I have this section completely filled out, if you can see that, with my design, and I'm ready to move on to my next section. So for that section, I'm going to use a different one. I'm going to go with this one right here, and the same technique applies. I also recommend having a napkin here because you will probably want to wipe the extra stuff off as you go along. Now, as you can see, once this first section dries, it will not be picked up by the stamper, so I don't have to worry about stamping over it when it's dry. If it were wet, that would be a different story. The first couple sections of this particular design are going to be fairly easy because I'm not worried so much about what's next or lining it up. It does get a little more difficult as you go along, though, just in trying to line things up. Now, I don't know if you can see that right here, but I do have an extra little blurb on this spot right here. And the great thing is because it's metal, it will scrape off fairly easily. So you can take your fingernail, you can just take an edge of the card and it will come completely off. So it's not a big deal. Then I'm going to move on to this design right here. And again, because I'm working with just single areas at the moment, it's not very difficult, and I won't start having to use the paper until I get over here. And again, I'm just going to continue working this until I get my desired effect completed. Now I do have one little area that's kind of plain and it doesn't need a full stamp, so I'm just going to put ink over one corner and try to line it up, which I was able to do. Again, I've got fingernail polish on an area I don't want, so I'm just going to go back and scrape that off. You should wait till it's dry. It is a little hard to get off if it's not completely dry, but once it's dry, it should come right off easily, just like that. Okay, now I'm moving on to the next section, which is going to be a little more difficult. Because these squares are not filled in yet, I don't have to worry so much about overlapping, but I will start to have to be very careful as I go along now, because that overlap will start to become an issue down here. Now for this design, I think I'm going to use the other template right here. And the great thing about these plates is that just because it's bigger and it might be bigger than your piece, you don't have to use the whole area. So I'm just going for the center area right here, and I'm going to stamp that over here. So just put that right where I want it and get the part of the design that I want. Again, scrape off the extra and stamp it on the pad. Now that I have my design, I do want to be a little careful just because, so I'm going to cover my previous design right here so that I can center this the best I can without worrying about the other design. And there, I've stamped it. So now I just need for that to dry so I can clean it up. Fortunately, because it's metal, it does clean pretty quickly. And at this point, this is where I'll use those lines that I drew previously before I started, just to be able to clean up exactly where I want it. If I were doing one pattern all over this entire stamp, it wouldn't, or this piece, it wouldn't matter. But since I'm doing a different section for each piece, I am being a little more particular, and that's why I did the pre-planning. So almost got it off. That one section just needs to dry a little bit more. There it goes. All right. All right, now I've got it cleaned up for the most part. Okay, now here's where it's going to start to get tricky. You may need more than one scrap piece of paper depending on your design. It really just depends on what you've got going on. So my next design is going to be right here. I'm going back to one I've used previously. Now I don't really care for that placement, so I'm going to let that dry, and I will scrape it off and start that one over again. But I can go on to this one since I'm not worried about that square right now. For this one, I'm also using a design I've previously used. The rest of these three, they're actually going to be previous designs. So just go back to my design plate. Let's see, is this dry? All right, it's getting there. The cool thing about this is if you really mess the whole thing up, just use some fingernail polish remover and start over. Found it to be very forgiving, which is good for people like me who can be a little bit OCD. You know, I have an image in my mind and that's how I want it to be, and sometimes reality doesn't line up. So if I want to try again, I can simply scrape it off and start over. And I like that flexibility. I will warn you though, if you do that, you will end up with black stained nails or whatever color nail polish you use. So be sure to have a scrub brush ready or something. Your fingers do get a little messy. Now, I pretty much have that finished this one particular section, so now I just need to do the cleanup. And this is where I'm really going to need this piece of paper. Okay. Now, okay. That's better. Much better. Okay, so as you can see, that came out much better this time. Much cleaner and centered better. I don't have as many voided areas of design. Okay, and this last section should be fairly easy. These should be my last two little stamps. All right, now I have finished this piece. If you can see that, it is now ready to be etched. Well, almost. The next step you have to do is paint your edges. And I recommend just going through with your fingernail polish. I like to use the fine brushes, the delicate brushes, but you just paint the edges that way. The etching solution will not eat away at the edge of your piece. I have done this in the ferric chloride bath instead of the dip where you have to have an anode or whatever. With I'm drawing a blank, but you know, with the electrolyte, with the bath where you connect it to electricity, just because it's easier to have on hand for me, and it has done very well. I think I left it in the bath for about 30 minutes, and I have some pieces here to show you. If you can see the detail on this piece right here. This is just a scrap metal. This was my test piece, and I'm just amazed at how well it turned out. The detail is amazing to me, how fine it got and how crisp it got. This piece right here is actually a earring piece to match this pendant I'm working on now. So you can see the same patterns that I just used. They turned out very well. It's pretty crisp and just perfect to me. Again, just amazed at how well, there you go, that's better, at how well this works and how easy it is. So that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to answer. But again, this is easy etch design with nail stamp art. Thanks for watching.